I know I must be crazy, I must be totally mad, but I do not back up my music information, my music data. I don't back up my music computer. Now, I am in no way suggesting that you follow suit and do likewise. I shall get into that in a second, but I would like to share with you my setup, the drives and what I store on them, and tell you why I do not back up. Now, if you've been using computers for any length of time, you will almost certainly have had a system crash or lost data in some way. I've been using them forever and I have had my share of system crashes. Modern computers, however, I think are possibly slightly more reliable, and I have had fewer crashes over the last, say, 10 years than I have over the previous 20 or 30. However, accidents can still happen, so protecting your data is obviously an important thing to do. Now, I would probably suggest that the best solution is to back up. And this is something which I looked at, it's something I wanted to do, but the barriers, shall we say, for me personally were just so great, I just lost the will to do it. So let me just briefly explain how you might back up your system. If you have only one drive, or maybe two drives, and it's not a massive problem, just get another drive or two and copy the data over to it. You can get backup programs, some of them are free. I think Windows has a built-in backup program, and you can get these to run automatically. This is what I used to do using a free backup program. I think it was called something like F-Backup. I can't actually remember. I tried a couple. But the problem I discovered was that at some point it stopped backing up. And I tried a few backup programs. Now, it might just have been me, but it wasn't 100% reliable. So it really wasn't doing the job it was supposed to do. Now, if a system is going to crash, it is very likely going to be the C drive, the Windows drive, the drive which contains Windows and usually has the programs and executables and so on it. Now, this is not easy to back up because you can't simply copy all the files onto another drive. Some files are locked and hidden, and I haven't found a backup program which would copy everything across. Having said that, that's not really what you want if you want to back up your system drive. What you need is a cloning application which will lift the data byte for byte from the hard drive and put it on another drive. Now, this obviously takes time depending on the size of the drive and how much data you have on it. Now, I did try this, it was many years ago, but it just took too long and it was too cumbersome. Now, you could probably set this up to run once a week, so if your drive did go kaput, you would only lose 1 week's worth of data. However, I sort of think it'd be better not lose any data at all. But that is one option you might like to explore if you want to protect your system drive, and I would certainly think it is a good idea to do. I don't do it, but I've never been accused of being the brightest button in the box. So before we go any further, let me just show you the hard drives in my music machine and I will tell you what is on them. So this is my PC on my music computer. I have a lot of hard drives, as you can see. I shall just run through them briefly and tell you what they are and what is on them. So the first one, of course, is the C drive. It's the Windows drive. This has got the main system files on. As you will undoubtedly know, when you install a program, the installer really wants to put that on the C drive, and some programs, I believe, will not run unless they are on the C drive. If you have plugins, VST2 and VST3, then these will also really want to go on the C drive. I think you can probably put them on another drive, but they're not massive files, so at the moment anyway, I don't have a problem putting them on the C drive, although as you can see, it is getting pretty full. The D drive is a new addition. It is a 4 terabyte solid state drive, and I got this after I bought Komplete Kontrol number 14. This contains over 1 terabyte of data. So a 1 terabyte drive was not going to do it. 2 terabytes probably would, but it would be pushing it. And I had other files which I really wanted on the drive as well. So 4 terabytes seemed like a good option. And yes, it was relatively expensive. So this is what is on the D drive at the moment. A lot of it is taken up with the native instruments, software, and I'm also using it to store samples for other plugins which require samples. You will see that I haven't attempted to give the drives any particularly useful names. Well, apart from this one, they were added bit by bit, and I knew what they were, so I didn't really feel it was necessary to rename them. However, I certainly think that giving them names so you know what's on board would be helpful. Anyway, this is full of contact instruments, as it says on the tin. Another solid state drive. Moving down, I think this is a mechanical drive, 2 terabytes. Again, this has got sample libraries on it. You can see it is coloured red because it is over 90% full, and Windows lets you know when the drive is filling up. This is another solid state drive. It's only a small one, 250 gig, and I use it for storing my music projects. The files generally are not too large, and I have dozens and dozens of project files on this drive, and you can see it is nowhere near full. However, I don't create a lot of massive audio files, so if you do, you would probably want a larger drive. So this one again, I think this is a mechanical drive as well, and this has even more sample libraries on it. This is an external USB drive. I bought it to replace an existing mechanical USB drive. The connection was a bit flaky, so I didn't really trust it. I haven't put much on this yet, so lots of storage here. This is another internal drive. I use it mainly for storing samples. I don't use samples a lot, so it tends not to get used terribly often, but I have also started to put some other contact instruments on it. This is another external USB hard drive. This is 5 terabytes, and this is probably the main utilities drive. And on this drive, I have all the installation files for all the software. The doors, the plugins, the installation managers, everything like that. So you will notice one thing about the arrangement. All the sample libraries are on individual drives. None of them are on the main drive. And I have another drive, the last drive we looked at, which contains all the installation files for all the plugins and all the software. Now this is quite an old machine. It must be 7 or 8 years old at least. It has an Intel i7 processor in it, but it is an old one. It only has 4 cores. Now, since I've had it and been using it as a music machine, I have had 2 blue screen of death crashes. I managed to recover from the first one. This was quite a few years ago, but the second one happened maybe a year and a half back, and I could not recover from this. I searched the internet for 4 days looking for possible solutions, trying to just access the drive so I could save off my data, but nothing would work. In the end, I was left with 2 options. One was simply to wipe the whole drive and reinstall Windows from scratch, which with hindsight might have been the best option. However, at the time, I wasn't really sure what important data might be lurking on the drive, so I was not very keen to wipe it. However, the second option was to restore Windows and retain your files. However, this did remove all the programs which I had installed. However, I went for this option and it's still working. So after that, I made a point of putting all my installation files on one drive. Now, as I said before, I think if a system is going to crash, it's normally going to be the C drive. Now, I know hard disks can fail, solid state drives as well as mechanical drives. So if that happens, well, yes, that is going to cause a problem. So that is really why it is a good idea to back up data. However, many modern drives have a sort of built-in function which lets you know if they are likely to fail. So you might be wondering, well, how long does a solid state drive last? What is its life expectancy? Typically, you might expect one to last at least 5 years and quite possibly up to 10 years. Now, mechanical drives don't seem to have such a long life expectancy as solid state drives. You might expect one to last somewhere between 3 and 5 years. However, I have hard drives and mechanical drives which must be at least 15 years old, which still seem to be working. However, I probably wouldn't trust them with any important data, and I certainly wouldn't use them to back up data onto. It can be a bit of a lottery. If you want to play safe, it is probably good practice to swap the drives out after a certain number of years. Interestingly, solid state drives tend to wear down more quickly the more you write to them. So if you're just going to write data to one, say put some sample libraries on it and then just read the data from that, then theoretically it should last longer than if you are constantly reading and writing to it, as would be the case with the system drive, the C drive. Having said that, if you are still using mechanical drives and want to speed up your computer, then putting in a solid state drive as the C drive will vastly increase the speed with which it starts up and performs. So what I've tried to do as much as I possibly can is to move as much as I can from the C drive onto other drives. So if the C drive goes pear-shaped again, I just really need to install Windows and some other bits and pieces to get up and running again. I won't lose, hopefully, any really seriously important data. Having said all that, yes, backing up is a really good thing to do and very good practice, and I don't think you will find anyone in the computer world who says don't back up. So I'm not saying that, I'm just explaining why I don't back up. I hope if my system crashes, it is just the C drive. I will still have all the main core components, the installation software, the plugins, my projects on other hard drives. Now I am hoping to a degree that these drives will let me know if they are about to fail. In my experience of crashed drives, and touch wood, this goes back many years. With most drives which actually crash and won't boot, you can often recover a lot of the information which was on them with recovery software. You can buy this, and I think there are also free options. There are also hard drive services which will attempt to recover the data for you. Now I've had to do that once, and I say that must be 15 years ago, so hopefully I don't have to do it again, but it is an option. And the reason I don't do the backups is because they were so faffy and unreliable. Now, the last time I actually considered backing up my entire system, it was a few years ago. Now I have over 20 terabytes of hard drives in this one computer which need backing up. Now, as you probably know, hard drives are getting bigger and bigger and faster, and you can actually buy 20 terabyte drives. I've just checked. They seem to vary in price from around £500, £600, £700 up to £1,500 and probably more. There are also cloud storage options. 20 terabytes of storage would cost from $150, $200 upwards. The problem with storing to the cloud, and we would assume that their servers are more reliable than our little machines here, the problem is the time it takes to transfer that amount of data. I've no idea how long it would take to upload 20 terabytes, but I think it would be a while. The good news is you would probably only have to do this once, and then the system hopefully would just upload new files every time you created new files. So there are a couple of backup options you might want to consider. However, I feel I am safe enough in what I am doing. I'm probably not. I shall let you know when I have a most terrible and dramatic system crash again. Well, I feel relatively comfortable that if the system drive, the C drive, crashes, then I would reinstall Windows and I would relatively quickly be able to reinstall the other programs and applications. But really, I would probably agree with just about everyone else in the computing world that backing up is a good thing to do. But I thought I would share what I do in case you have had the same issues that I have had or really don't want to get into backing up at all. Separating your files onto different drives, I think, offers a degree of protection. Hopefully, barring accidents, of course, all the drives on your computer are not going to fail at the same time. If they did, well, for me, that certainly would be a problem. Anyway, I would be really interested to know if you back up everything on a regular basis and how you do it, what software you use, how many terabytes of data, how many hard drives you use. You might just persuade me to start backing up again. Let me know in the comments. As always, I do appreciate you spending time with me watching my videos. Now, I know this has not been a very musical video, but I think it's an important aspect of how we make music, protecting our files and our data. So I thought it was worth making. Here is a video with some calming vibes if you think you need to calm down a little bit after watching this. I think I do. And here is a playlist too with lots of different types of electronic music in it. Thank you for watching. I will see you again soon.